We are committed to creating a safe and supportive space for our guests and listeners, and to provide information and tools that will help our listeners understand, manage, and overcome trauma. We understand that the healing journey can bring up challenging emotions. Therefore, we want to warn our audience that certain episodes may contain discussions or stories that could be triggering for some individuals. The content of the podcast is for educational and informative purposes only, and we encourage you to practice self-care and discretion while listening, and to reach out to a trusted support system or professional if you feel overwhelmed and need help on your healing journey. So Janelle, thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I'm just going to quickly share a little bit about you. So you're a relationship coach and you're also a marriage expert, which awesome. And some of the stuff that you're going to share about, you're going to share your story of abuse, and you're going to share however much you feel like sharing. And you're going to share about your healing, which is really important and for our listeners. And then there's a couple of questions. I just read them to you a few minutes ago that you thought of that are really good, huh?
They were. I'm like, I need to write these down. Is that what I put in my pod match? Is that where you got that from?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if I got, no, I don't know if I got it from your pod match or what, something you sent over. I might have got it from your pod match. You know how you list out those questions,
Right.
Sometimes questions that you want asked, and it was like, I like those. So
Yeah.
well, should we start with them and then we can go into your story?
Whatever feels good. Like I do really well with just whatever is like there.
Whatever.
Flow. Yeah.
Okay. So let's ask them because they are really good questions. And then maybe in that we can fold in your story.
Sure. Whatever works.
Well, we'll just see how it goes. So the first question you have is, why do you think it's important to heal in order to grow and be happy? Why do you think it's important to heal in order to grow and be happy? It's a good question.
It is a good question.
And it's critical. It's true.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
Yeah. Do you want me to answer that like right now?
Yeah. Yeah. Can you, or do you want to think about it?
I mean, there's so many ways I could, you know what? How about we start from the beginning? Because I feel like I need a little bit of a warm up.
Okay, let's do that then. We'll jump over to that and we'll do your story. How about that?
Yeah, I think that would probably feel better to me because right now I feel a bit cold right now.
Okay, so let's get you warmed up. Yeah, let's do some stretches here. Yeah, exactly, right? Get some stretches in. Very good. Okay. So tell us about you.
So I am from Vancouver, Canada. I am the
Beautiful.
first generation Canadian Filipino. And, I had a really great family. I had a really great upbringing. I was lucky enough to have parents who really loved each other, who were great role models. My mom is my hero. She taught me to be strong, to love people. She's like a Mother Teresa, She's just the most loving, giving, generous to a fault kind of woman. But then, around the time I was 9, I found out that my dad had cheated on my mom with her best friend who lived in our basement and got her pregnant. I was 9, my sister was 6, and my brother was 3. So I was kind of the only child that really knew what was happening.
Could understand. Yeah.
I could understand the
best
enormity.
You could. Yeah.
Right. Like this is a life-changing moment.
Right.
And I remember that day when I remember it was nighttime, and my mom called us into the living room, us kids. And when we got there was my mom, my dad, and a set of luggage sitting by the door.
Ooh.
And my mom turns to us and says, "Kids, your dad's leaving. He doesn't love us anymore." And I think she said that as a jab, but I think, subconsciously as children, you really
you take that literally.
You take that really literally. And so I remember standing at that bay window on the second floor, watching my dad go down the stairs. And my dad was a big joker. My dad's passed away now, but my dad was a big joker. And there was a part of me that was expecting him to turn around and just be like, ha ha, joke.
Yeah.
Of course, it never happened. And I just remember him stepping into a brown car that I'd never seen before. And that was it. And in that moment, what I later realized when I started to get into this work, what I realized was that little 9-year-old made 3 decisions that day that first of all, she's unlovable because she's a daddy's girl. So if dad was going to leave her, there must be a reason why.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, I can't trust men. I can't trust
Mm.
anybody
Yeah.
because guess what? Number three, they're all going to leave me.
Yeah.
And so here I was going through my 20s, attracting men that were not good for me. And I think subconsciously, like now that I'm here where I am and I can look back,
Mm-hmm.
I can really see that, I self-sabotaged myself because
Mm-hmm.
subconsciously I had it that, well, they're gonna leave me anyway. So why would I find a great guy?
Why put effort in? Why,
Why put
why?
effort
Yeah.
in? Why invest?
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I dated cheaters, liars, abusers, men that told me that crying was a weakness and that I belonged in a mental institution because I cried. And so for
Ooh.
20 years I did not cry ever, even when my dad died. Couldn't cry.
Ooh, that's not good.
Yeah, and it was just like all of these stories that I had created that I didn't know I created.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I went and did the work, and actually I was in my divorce. I was going through a divorce when all of this was going down.
Mm-hmm.
And I put us in a seminar and I said, okay, we need to fix you. It was kind of my agenda. Right? You're broken. We need to fix you. But what happened was inside that course, I discovered all the stuff that I had not seen or dealt with in my past. And so, although he was checked out and not really into it, I was like at the edge of my seat going, oh my gosh, this totally makes sense why I am the way I am. Because that was my question. Why am I the way I am?
Yes. Yeah.
Why do I
Yep.
keep the same results, the same patterns were showing up? So I'm like, what is it
Mm-hmm.
about me?
Same cycles,
Same
same
cycle, same
thoughts.
man, different face, right?
Yeah.
And I so badly wanted to just find my person. I wanted to be in love.
Yeah.
I'm a naturally romantic. I knew the kind of man I wanted. Watching my dad like totally put my mom on a pedestal. I'm like, oh my God, I
Yeah.
cannot wait to find my person. Anyway, so I came out of that course, realized that I had to take responsibility for my own healing, that I had not forgiven my dad, that I had stories about myself that was self-sabotaging my ability to
Mm-hmm.
be truly happy, and that I needed to complete this marriage. And so at the end of it all, I was able to look at my ex-husband and say, listen, I am so sorry for trying to change you, fix you,
Mm-hmm.
judge you, trying to make you into someone you're not. And what I realized too in that course was that I had gotten married for the wrong reasons. I think a lot of couples do, right? I
Mm-hmm.
got married because I'm like, well, I'm 24, I'm Filipino, my family's badgering me to settle down and have kids. And there was this element of the fear of being alone. Like,
Yeah.
I'd rather be in a relationship that was okay than actually be by myself. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of people fall in that category.
Yeah.
So I really had to just take ownership for all of that. And so I was able to say to my ex, like, listen, you're perfect the way you are. And it just doesn't work for me. And it's not what I want. And I think we should complete this relationship. And as a Catholic, that was really,
Yeah.
really hard for me. And then to say to my mom, like, this is what our plan is, broke her heart.
Yeah.
But again, I had to take responsibility for her reaction, knowing where she comes from, knowing that this is not something that Catholics do. And I had to really, find peace within myself and with God to be like, yeah, maybe this wasn't such a good idea. And it's okay. But, of course, there's this element of guilt that's like right there. There's
Oh, yeah.
shame that's right there.
Mm-hmm.
But, that weekend, that course really just shook me. And this is why I'm so passionate about transformation and coaching is that, as opposed to counseling and therapy, which is a very long, drawn year process that really isn't about change. It's really just about understanding and clarity. But I believe that coaching allows us the ability to transform into the person we want to be and
Mm-hmm.
not be stuck with the default that we were given. Because I think that was it. As I felt like I've been abused, I'd been molested, I'd been bullied, like I'd been cheated on, all these things that had happened to me. I felt like that was my identity. And I so
Yeah.
badly wanted to let it go, but I didn't know how because that
Yeah.
was so much of who I was.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. We make it our identity. Yeah. And then it is hard to let go. That's true.
Right. And so doing the work, working with my own coach, I really got the facility, the tools, the clarity of like, oh, I just need to, first of all, shift my mind. Second of all, get real with myself about what doesn't work in my life. And third, be really clear about who do I want to become? Who is this? If I could create a new identity,
Mm-hmm.
who would she be? And what are the shifts and the mind shifts, the emotional shifts, and the behavior shifts that need to happen
Yeah.
in order to me to be that. So now I have been happily married for 18 years to the love of my life. He is perfect in every way. He's my muse. He's my inspiration. He's my cheerleader. He's my cook. He's my he's everything that I'd ever wanted. And I think that had I not done the work, I would have not been open to a good guy.
Oh, yeah. Same here. Same here.
I think I needed to be burned. I needed to learn all those
Mm-hmm.
things that really didn't work in order for me to be open even
Mm-hmm.
to attracting that kind of guy. Because I think in the past, I would have totally looked over my husband, could have been like, he's too nice. He's too
Boring.
agreeable, boring, doormat.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, this man just like surprises me every day. And it's to me, he thinks he's a boring person. I'm like, I think you're so fascinating, like to me. And just he's taught me so much about responsibility. And when I say responsibility, I mean like responsibility for the relationship. Like there is no blame, no fault conversations. Everything is a we
Yeah.
conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always about how do we be happy, not how do we be right, how do we dominate.
Right.
It's not that. It's like how do we just be happy together?
Mm-hmm.
And so I've taken a lot of all of my experience to really be able to coach my clients. And because I have a husband who is so vulnerable and so
That's rare for a man.
it's beautiful. So
We need to create that space for more men.
we do. And funny
Mm-hmm.
enough, most of my clients are men.
Oh, good.
Yes, I'm so happy about that. But we'll talk about
Yeah.
that later. But yeah, I have such a soft spot for men. And before I became a coach, I was in software sales. So I've been around men most of my
Mm-hmm.
life. And even as a child, I was extremely competitive. I was a competitive dancer. I'm a professional singer. I have Royal Conservatory of Music piano since till grade 10.
Wow.
So I think in my personality, that sort of like competitive, very structured, very strategic thinking really resonates with men.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so yeah, I've just been able to create this extraordinary life and an extraordinary business where it's really about love, love,
Mm-hmm.
compassion. And I think at the end of the day, my job, if I were to really just like bring it down to the nuts and bolts of it, is to let my clients know that they're not alone,
Yeah.
that I have been through where they've been, not just I understand, but like, hey,
Right.
I get it. I've been there. I got the t-shirt, I got the shorts, I got the socks, and also that there's hope and it's that they're not broken and there's nothing wrong.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. This thing about the feeling like you're broken. I mean, I get that, but we're not broken. We are not broken. It's all fixable. And it's one thing that's been coming up lately. And I hope you agree. I mean, don't you think that in order to help someone with trauma, whether you're a coach or you're a therapist, you need to have expertise in those areas?
100%. Well, especially when it comes to building trust.
That's huge, especially with someone with trauma.
Yeah. Like when
That's
you're like,
one of the biggest obstacles to overcome.
yeah. So when you have someone who doesn't just say, "Oh, I understand," but like, no, they've been
Mm-hmm,
there.
mm-hmm,
They
mm-hmm.
know what that's like. They know that feeling. They know when those moments when you feel like you're going crazy or you feel like you're in such a dark place that you feel like you can't even be reached or helped. To
Yeah.
know that and to let them know that you know what that's like, I think is half the battle, to be honest.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And hold space for them. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you get in those, when you're in your deep trauma healing, you absolutely need to have a support system. I did some of it on my own and it was hard and it was long. It
Yeah.
was a long healing process because I didn't have the support for a while.
Right. And I think, part of being a coach for me is really being able to show them the blind spots, the parts of the
Yes.
that they don't even know is in the way. And once they see that, now they have, first of all, clarity. Now they have the freedom of this thing called choice.
Correct.
When it's in the background, you don't see it. It's like a boogie monster that you can't quite pinpoint, or, you can't do anything about it.
Right. I mean, I described this on my podcast before, but one of the things that I used to struggle with is I got to the point where I could see the cycles that I was doing, the repetitive stuff, right? I'd stand back and I'd see it,
Yeah.
but I didn't know how to change it, right? And all I kept seeing was a brick wall. That's what
Yeah.
I kept seeing. Like I was running into a brick wall and I was trying to figure out how am I going to get through this brick wall, right? And it took me the longest time, and it it sounds simple, it's not. But
Yeah.
for me, it's really when you're in that place, because it's frustrating and it can be scary. For me, it was absolutely frustrating. It made me want to slam my head against the wall, right? Because how do I get through? I just learned to take a step back and look at other options, because what it felt like at that moment was there was no other choice. There is this huge wall in front of me and I can't get through it. There is
Yeah.
no other choices. I can't climb over it. I can't bust through it. What do I do?
Yeah.
That's frustrating.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's like if you only have a rope, that's your only facility or only tool you have, and you've done everything you can,
Take it.
you still can't do it. Well, it's like, well, maybe it's the rope, it's not the rope I need. Maybe I need something else, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm guilty of this too. It's like you keep using the same tool thinking you're going to get a different result, but no,
Yeah.
you have to shift something. Something has to change in order for the whole thing to change. We think
Mm-hmm.
that staying the same is going to give us a new result, but that's like the definition of insanity, right?
Right. And
You
it
can't
can be
expect anything to change.
just a little change. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be substantial, because I'm sitting here thinking, what did I do? Like, what did I do? Like, I remember seeing that big brick wall, and all I kept thinking is I had to go forward. But you know what? I had to turn right.
Yeah.
I had to turn right. And as soon as
Yeah.
I turned right, I had a whole nother
Yeah.
option. But all I was so focused on looking forward and
Yeah.
trying to figure out how I'm going to get through that brick wall.
Yeah.
And I did that for years.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so, where I can relate to that is, I meet with clients and they tell me they can spend 2 days telling me about what's wrong, what they
Yeah.
don't want. I'm like, okay, got it. But what do you want?
Yeah.
They look at me like I have three heads. And so, to your point, they're focused on what they don't want, trying to fix what they don't want, and they can't figure out why they're unhappy.
Right.
It's like you're
Right.
not going to get from a place of frustration and, that sort of low vibe feeling
Mm-hmm.
and get to this place called love, joy, and connection. They just don't belong in the same realm.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think as humans, it's so natural for us to look for what's wrong because we're built for survival. We're not built
Right.
to grow.
Right. And we want to fix it. We want to figure it out.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Um, so what was the biggest thing that really helped you in your healing? Because it sounds like you've come a long way, and I'm sure that it's been more than kind of one thing. Self-awareness, obviously, right? Because then you're becoming aware of, like, you becoming aware of all these relationships you were in, and it's like they're all kind of the same. What's the common denominator?
Mhm. You know what? Honestly, I would say the word again. I know I used this word earlier, but responsibility. And what I mean by that is seeing it, getting clarity is one thing. Like you see it, but being responsible for what you see is another thing, right?
True.
There's this saying that I use all the time, and it goes like this: pain and suffering only exist when you resist what is so. So when you have it, like,
Mm,
I shouldn't be this way, my husband shouldn't be this way, my parents shouldn't be this way. All of that resistance is what creates the pain and the suffering. My finances shouldn't be this way, right? And I went through this a couple weeks ago, and I had to get real with myself. Like, my finances are the way they are.
right.
And when we can get to that level of power and acknowledgement, now we see possibilities of, like, okay, what action can I take?
True.
But when we're in a place like, oh, this sucks, it shouldn't be this way, any action that's taken is coming from a place of fear.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're usually not actually taking the right action. All you're doing is you're almost being defensive rather than offensive, if that makes sense.
Correct. Yes. 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 Totally.
Well, that's what I do is I actually have a little post-it note in my bathroom and it's like, take a breath,
Yeah.
right? Take a breath, get responsible, and trust. And for me, it's really about trusting in myself, trusting in the divine plan, trusting that there's actually nothing wrong. And, one of the things that I struggle with as a high achiever is patience.
Yeah. That's
Right.
me.
And so I'm like, why
I've
am
gotten
I
a lot better.
right? But like that's how I've operated in life. And funny enough, my clients are the same way. They have certain expectations, they compare themselves,
Mm-hmm.
they're perfectionists, they're people pleasers. And so I really just help them tune in to like what's actually in the way and what are the beliefs that we have that we should be doing this faster or that our body
Yeah.
or that we should be a certain kind of parent or wife and just actually like listen to what's there. Because I think when we can, first of all, be clear about our personal values, which I think many of us don't even know.
Yeah.
Now we can create loving boundaries with people and get back into our power, which then creates integrity. And when we're in integrity with all of our values, the energy that we show up in
Yeah.
totally different.
Life is a lot different. That is for sure.
Yeah, but we live in this like it's not my fault and it's someone else's, it's my job, it's my kids, it's my time, it's my body, it's everything else but me. And when we can be like, no, you know what? My life is the way it is because of the decisions I've made, not good or bad, but when I can get responsible about, I'm extra, for example, I'm an extra 20 pounds heavier. That's on me. I did that to myself. And now what am I committed to? And I think knowing what you're committed to is a place to stand that has power. And it has to be something positive, not negative. It needs
Right.
I'm committed to not being fat. No, 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 no. That's not it. Right.
I'm committed to getting healthier. How about that?
And having freedom and joy and vitality.
And feel good.
Now it's from a place of freedom and joy, not from a place of survival and lack and scarcity.
Yeah. One thing you were saying, and it dawned on me, a question came up, when you get to the point where you have the awareness and you do see, okay, let's use your example of the 20 pounds overweight and you recognize that and you were so good because you're like, that's on me. That's a response. But at the same time, you didn't sit there and beat yourself up while you were explaining it. You didn't go down the road of all these terrible things that you did to put the weight on. You're a terrible person, blah, blah, blah. When you first start doing this, though, it is when you start having that awareness of your responsibility, it can knock you down.
Oh yeah.
It can be overwhelming. And so, and it's really easy for me to say, you just need to give yourself grace, right?
Yeah.
Which is true. You
Yeah.
do. You need to would you go and beat your friend up when if that were your friend? You wouldn't go and beat them up and verbally assault them. So why are you doing that to yourself? But easier said than done. What did you do to help you get over that shame? Because that's a part of shame that we carry, and it can hinder us.
Yeah. Oh, there's so many things I can say about that. I think the first thing is like, first of all, paying attention to what are the thoughts? Because I think most people are very familiar with the emotion piece of it, but they're not familiar with the thought. And everything starts with a thought. So I think listening to, okay, what is that voice saying to me? And secondly, where did that voice come from? Is that my dance teacher? Is that my dad? Is that my mom? Is it okay? Who is that? Is that social media? And then thirdly, what if it wasn't true?
Yeah. Challenge it, right?
Challenging it. Yeah. It's like, well, or what if I didn't want to believe that? What could I believe that would get me to have the emotional experience that I'm looking for? Right. And so it's like you're trying to flip it on its head. But it's interesting you talk about grace because, I can hear people going, well, what does that even mean to have grace for yourself?
Yeah.
Right. Because I think, especially for me, like what shows up when you say grace is like, suck it up, princess. right?
Ooh,
That's my inner
yeah.
voice. Suck it up, princess. Like and I
Oh,
realized like my mom, as amazing as she is, she never complained. And so for me, I have it that complaining or voicing my concern is bad.
right,
And I just had to go, okay, well, where did that come from? Why do I think that?
right.
And how does that actually benefit me?
It
Really?
doesn't. It
And then
doesn't.
what if I dropped it? What would now be possible? If I could actually ask for help, if I could actually voice how I feel, if I could actually just be authentically me and not try to be my mom.
Yeah.
But I think, again, it starts with knowing your value system. And I think a lot of people don't take the time to really know who they are at the core.
Yeah. I mean, so much of this is kind of the deconstructing that we go through too. And I think it's really good. And I know for me and my son, actually, he's kind of going through it too, but you just kind of start questioning everything. You really do. And that's a good thing. And,
Yeah.
and this is something that I kind of come to realization over the last like week, because I've been doing a lot of research on trauma, of course, is
Mm.
that so often we react to stuff because we don't know how to do it different.
Yeah, exactly.
And so much of when we were raised, like you say, your mom didn't complain. So you watched your mom and you learned from your mom not to complain. It's not that your mom did necessarily anything wrong. It's just something that we, us as children, we watch our parents, we learn from our parents, and we take that on, and then we carry it on. And we have to sometimes stop and go, wait, does that work for me?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what I'm actually dealing with right now? Like, if I'm going to get really personal, I am looking to really expand my business. And I can tell I am in this, like, I'm hitting a wall for my.
Yeah.
So I've been really just doing the work myself. Like, okay, what is it that I am bumping up against? And
Mm-hmm.
here's what I discovered. My dad, I forgot to finish my story. So 3 years later, my dad comes back and
Mm.
he asks for forgiveness from my mom. And
Really?
yeah, and my mom says yes, under
Oh,
two conditions. Number one, you never go back there. If you're here, you're here. And number two, we forgive and we forget. And for
wow.
the next, so what happened was my dad was diagnosed with double renal failure, went on dialysis, and had to wait for a kidney and couldn't work. So now he was back with my mom. And you know what? My dad was a better husband, better father. He started going to church every day with my
Oh.
mom. They just had this extraordinary relationship now that they were spending more time together because my dad, growing up, had 3 jobs. He gave us a great life, but he was always working.
Mm-hmm.
And so he worked 18 hours a day, 6 days a week, I think is what it
Oh
was,
my gosh.
for a few years. And he was always tired. Anyway, so I made up that making money equals death because my dad died 13 years later. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know that. Like, I didn't know that that was what was going on in my subconscious is that, well,
Mm-hmm.
I watched my dad work his butt off and then he died.
Yeah, he worked himself to death, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So now there's something in my subconscious that
Mm-hmm.
has that equal each other. And so now my work right now is like unpacking that and going, well, how is that not true? How is it true? What is, am I willing to believe something different for myself and not feel like if that happened to my dad, that must mean it's going to happen to me. But
Mm-hmm.
this is all in the subconscious, right?
Right, right. Yeah, and it's not in the forefront. You're not thinking it through until you realize it, and then you start processing it.
Right. But again, I didn't see that until someone pointed that out to me because I can only see, right,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
this far. And I think that's why it's so important to have other people, professionals, be part of that conversation so
Yeah.
that you can expand. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, and it was amazing. It was so liberating, but at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
it was really sad because I'm like, wow, that's what I've been like punishing myself for. And the
Mm-hmm.
other piece I saw was that I hadn't fully forgiven my father or myself.
I was gonna say, what about yourself?
Yeah. And
That's
I
a
so
big one people don't realize.
Yes. And so I think it's great. Like, this is a perfect time to talk about forgiveness. I think forgiveness is so critical in being happy and peaceful. But I think majority of us, like 99% of us, don't actually understand forgiveness. We think forgiveness is about letting someone else off the hook for
Nope.
something they did. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so
It's for us.
it's for us. So
100%.
when we can get to that level, but again, it's deprogramming, unprogramming
Mhm.
all those thoughts of what we thought it was.
Mhm.
But when we can get to that level, especially when it's someone that has passed away, right? We're like, well, how do we forgive them when we can't have a conversation with them? It's like,
I've
no.
had to deal with that. I've had to deal with that.
Yeah. So
And
I
it's
think
hard.
that's something that if we all just took the time to do the work, because there's something that we're holding on to when we're unable to forgive. And when we can finally let that go, man, it's like that heavy, knapsack that we've been carrying for 20 years. That's 30 pounds of weight. And when we can finally take that off, it's like, oh my God, it's like a whole new world. But we're so used to having that knapsack on our back that we're like, we almost don't want to let it go because it's such a part of us. And it also gives us the reason to be right.
Correct. To be right. Yeah. Right. Right. And I know, what I believe about forgiveness is, yeah, it is 100% for us. It is not, it doesn't dismiss what they've done at all. And I know that, like, for instance, my brother, I have forgiven him. And how I know is I can share the stories of him and I can think about him and I don't have any more anger towards him at all.
Yeah.
It's interesting when I tell my stories, a lot of times it feels like I'm telling someone else's story.
Yeah.
It doesn't have that grip on
Yeah.
me. Now I can hear someone else's story and it can get a grip on me, but my own stories don't have that effect on me anymore.
Yeah.
And he's not in my life, and by choice. And I am a firm believer that if the person is still an abuser and is still abusive towards you,
Yeah.
you do not have to have them in your life, no matter who they are. No
Exactly.
matter who they are. I say you should forgive them, but that's just for you. So that's you can move on your healing journey, because unforgiveness turns into bitterness and resentment, and it will take a toll on your body, not just your mind, but your
Yeah.
body as well. And so, you know, did I forgive my brother overnight? Was it one time I forgave him? No, it was a process. It was a process. I would say with my parents, I'm working on the one with my dad. I'm a lot further along than I was. I'm not completely there yet with my mom. I'm way further along than I used to be. Still, things still get to me and I have to work on it, but forgiveness is freedom for you.
Yeah. That is something that I feel like if we talk about world peace all the time, and yet we don't have it in our families. We don't
Exactly.
we don't have it in ourselves. So how is world peace even going to be
Ah,
accomplished when we don't even know what that is for ourselves, nor do we know it with other people that we love, never mind the rest of the world who we don't even know. So to me, that is that's part of my mission in this world. I believe that's my soul's mission.
we need to create our own peace in our own life and it will go out. It's like, for instance, our home. We make sure it is a sanctuary, and it's not just for us, but whoever walks in that front door, that it
Yeah.
is a comfortable, safe place for them to come and they can just
Right. Especially our children. Children who feel, they think, oh, well, we don't fight in front of our kids. I'm like, they know something's up.
oh, they know. They know. Yeah. And my parents, they didn't fight. I don't ever remember them. I can remember my mom being mad at my dad,
Right.
but I never witnessed them fighting. But I do know to this day that I look back and I always felt like my mom didn't like my dad.
Yeah, you knew.
I knew, I knew something wasn't right. And I always felt sorry for my dad.
Yeah.
I felt bad for him. But I knew that, I knew there wasn't something quite right there, that they didn't get along. It was not, they weren't affectionate, it
Yeah.
was, and kids know, they don't even have to say anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, that's part of the reason why people come to see me is that they realize this, they acknowledge that, and they want to be really great role models. But if they've, most of my clients have come from divorced families, so they don't even know what a
Right.
healthy relationship is. All
Right.
they know is yelling, abuse, domination. the shut down, numb out,
Passive
passive
aggressive.
aggressive. That's all they know. And so
Mhm.
I just love the work that I do because I really just get to be kind of a mentor to them, and I
Mhm.
share a lot of my own stories with my husband. And sometimes that's all it takes. They're like, "Oh, is that what I have to do? Is that what the conversation sounds like? I
Right.
can do that."
Right. I mean,
It's
really, you're just teaching them something they didn't know, something they
right,
weren't raised with. Nobody, when we get married, that you don't go to marriage school. You don't go to a
right,
school and learn how to be in a marriage, in a healthy, loving marriage. You bring in all the crap from your childhood
right.
and your adult life, and you bring it in there and you throw it on the table and you say, here it is,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Uh-huh. And
and
then we also
you,
taught from society that, well, if he loved you, he should be able
yeah,
to read your mind, or you can't ask for what you want, or just all these like toxic, I don't know the word toxic, but
rules.
not just not helpful. Like, I believe that we need to, especially for women, I think we need to set our men up to win, you know? And
Yes.
when I say win, is like, I tell my husband, honey, when I'm upset, here's what I need you to do.
Yeah.
I need it. I need you to not try to fix me. Don't give me advice. Hold my hand. And at the end of it, tell me you love me, give me a hug, and get me some ice cream. So he knows exactly what is expected. And guess what? He gets to be the hero every single time.
Hmm.
But when I bring this up to women, like, here's what I do, like, why don't you try this? They totally scoff at the idea because they're like, well, it should be
Yeah.
genuine. I said, but yeah, but he has been genuine, and that's not what you want, obviously.
Hmm.
So why don't you tell him what you want? And they really fight me on this. And I'm just
That's
like,
interesting.
oh yeah. Or they'll say, I really want to I don't feel appreciated by my partner. I said, okay, here's your homework this week. Go and appreciate your partner.
Show him.
Show him that he's appreciated. And they're like, why? He hasn't done anything. I'm like, why does he have to do something? Do your children have to do something to be loved? No. You just love them unconditionally. So why can't you do that for your partner? So
Right.
all of these things that we've been taught or seen that I think just needs to be retrained almost.
Right. And so much of that is kind of the right fighter, they both want
Yeah.
to be right. And
Yeah.
do you want to be right, or do you want to win? I mean,
Yeah.
do you want, you want to win the battle, you want to win the war?
Yeah. But guess what? No one wins.
Mm-mm. No,
Right.
no. Okay, so let's go to our question. Are you warmed up enough for
I
your
think
question?
so. I think so.
Okay, let's go to the first one. So why do you think it's important to heal in order to grow and be happy?
Hmm. I think so many people, they have an expectation about marriage
Yeah.
that is like, when I find this person, it's their job to fill the hole in my heart, to make me feel worthy, to make me happy, to make me feel beautiful, to make me feel wanted. But we forget that our partner is dealing with their own stuff,
Mm-hmm. It's
and
true.
it's not their job. And how are they going to know what you need? Because only you know what you need.
Right.
Right.
And
And
you
I
got to
think
make sure you know what you need, though. Sometimes you don't
that
know.
too. And again, but we again, back to responsibility. We got to
Mhm.
be able to be responsible for what it is that we need, be able to be okay with communicating that. And more importantly, getting agreement
Mhm.
about that expectation. Rather than having an expectation, don't talk about it, get pissed off that your partner isn't fulfilling an expectation that you never communicated.
The unspoken expectations are
Deadly.
deadly. They're killers. That's what I was going to say. They're killers. Yeah.
Yeah. And so for me, so I've been married before, right? And there's moments when a trigger will show up for me from my
Mm-hmm.
ex.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I do is I'll behave a certain way. I'll catch myself.
Yeah.
And then I'll say to my husband, "Hey babe, sorry, I just saw what I just said or did, and that wasn't about you. I'm just
Yeah.
dealing with a trigger from this guy, from my ex, and it's nothing to do with you. So don't take it personal. And I'm just working on that right now." So he knows, okay, Janelle being weird right now, nothing to do with me. She's just dealing with herself. I didn't do anything because my husband goes into, oh, what did I do wrong?
Right. Right.
Right.
And
So I
tries
just
to
say, look,
fix it.
Right. And I'm like, honey, it's not about you. I'm just dealing with myself. Or, sometimes I'm not as maybe as affectionate as I could be. I'll let him know, like, hey, babe, you know what? I just had a really hard day today. And
Yeah.
me being not affectionate it has nothing to do with you. I'm just dealing with my stuff. And then he can say, oh, honey, I'm sorry to hear that. What can I do to support you? But if I never told him and I just kind of was like, I kind of brushed him off, he'd be like,
Anything
what did I
could come
do?
to his mind. Yeah.
And now he's feeling upset and now we're weird. And
Mm-hmm.
so this is why it's so important to be, again, responsible and aware and to heal continuously. And I think that process never ends. I think that process ends
No.
when we die.
Yeah. We take our last breath and we're done. Yeah.
And
The
even then,
healing.
I think even in the afterlife, we're still working on that.
Oh yeah. There's still stuff that we're working on. Yeah. There's I never get away from healing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah. So why do you think it's important to heal in order to grow and be happy? And, and kind of my thought to that too is without healing, you're not going to be able to grow. You're not going to have true happiness. And I know that to be true for me. The life I'm living now, I never even imagined. And I'm not bragging. Trust me, I'm not bragging. I'm amazed at the life I live. Had I not done my healing 13 years ago, a lot of deep healing, when I went through my divorce, it seems like that kind of really triggered something really deep, and I did a lot of healing. But without that, I wouldn't be where I am today. There's no way.
100%.
No way. And you're right. Healing is a journey. It's not, it does seem to get easier though. It
Yeah.
does definitely seem to get easier. And I've said it before, but the self-awareness is what really is the key to get things going.
Yeah.
Because that's where you catch the emotions in your body, the feelings, the
Right.
thoughts that are going through your head,
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
triggers. And
Yeah.
it's actually empowering.
Yeah. 100%. When you don't add any meaning to it, when you can just sort of,
Or a story. Yeah.
yeah, get out of it and really look at it. Like I really try to have this out of body experience
Yes.
where I
Yeah.
look at myself from the outside. Cause I think
Yeah.
even then, when I don't know what to do, I kind of go, okay, I either ask myself, what would God say to me right now? Or what would Janelle a year from now say to me?
Yeah.
Or I check in with my gut. But there's these little ways that I kind of try to get some objectivity
Yeah.
situation because I know the answer, but there's just something that's blocking me from that. So if I
Hmm.
can get out of that, I'll see it much clearer.
Yeah. Yeah. Triggers are really, they are so crippling. And when you aren't aware of it, when you
Yeah.
aren't aware that you're being triggered, I can just, I'm thinking of a time before I realized that I was triggered, and it was
Yeah.
a time, my poor husband, bless his heart. I am married to a saint as well. He's just a sweetheart. He's my little safe place. And we don't fight. We have discussions, but we don't fight. And there was something that happened, and I was at a place where I'm like, I just need to like blah, right? And it wasn't directed at him at all. But I looked at him, I said, honey, I'm just letting you know I'm gonna let loose here. And I
Yeah.
did. And he just stood there and he just listened and he just listened, and bless his heart. And it felt better after, but at the same time, it kind of wound me up, and I felt like I didn't have complete control of it.
Mm,
When I learned about triggers and I learned about when I'm triggered and what triggers me, I can take that space now.
yeah.
I can, like you say, kind of look at the whole situation and reevaluate it and make a different choice, because I know for me, when I'm triggered, it automatically wants to take me to a self-sabotage place.
Yeah. Yeah. I notice for me when I get triggered, one of the practices that I do is I ask myself, well, first of all, I get clear about what it is that I'm like, what's the complaint?
Right, exactly.
But my next step is I go, because I believe that everyone is our mirror. And if there's
Mm,
something about the other person we don't like, I
yeah.
automatically go, okay, what is it that they're showing me about myself
Hmm.
that I haven't healed?
Hmm. It's true.
Right. But of course, the first time you're like, ah,
Yeah.
and then it's like when I come back from it, I'm like, okay, what is that? What is this person showing back at me that
Mm-hmm.
I still need to heal, which is great because I'm always looking at it, right? I'm always like, how can I be better? How can I have
Yeah.
peace? How can I get out of my own way to be the fullest expression of Janelle? Because I know when I'm in my power, when I'm like
Yeah.
free of all that low vibration emotion, like I am such a master manifester.
I
Like
love that.
real. Like I put up like orders to God and they come down like rain, and but it only happens when I'm super, super clear.
Yes. Yeah. There's things that aren't in the way that's hindering that.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That stuff gets in the way. Ooh, that's good. That's good. I like that. Okay, question number 2. Why do you think so many people want to be happy but can't?
I think people want to be happy but can't because number one, I think deep down, they don't think they deserve to be happy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think we all, including men, have a conversation of not enough. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
good enough, pretty enough, rich enough, like all the enoughs. I think we compare ourselves so much to others. And I think it started all from childhood,
Mm-hmm.
our parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
got love when we were good boys and girls, and then we got grounded when we were bad. And so there's this like morality, like good, bad, right, wrong. And I think sometimes morality is, like it has its place, but sometimes it just is the thing that gets in the way of us being truly happy. Like getting divorced for me, right? It was like, oh, if I get divorced, I'm going to feel bad and shame and guilt, and my mom's going to be mad at me. And does that make me a bad person?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I just
Mm-hmm.
had to get out of that and just be like, no, what is it that I want? I want to be happy. Does this make me happy? No. End of story.
Mm-hmm. So what do
Right.
I need to do to make myself happy,
What do
right?
I need to do to make myself happy? Um, and I think too, people, again, going back to values, I think that we think happiness is something that it's not. When I was in corporate, I thought getting the recognition, getting the money, winning the trip, having my name in lights was going to make me feel validated, prove that I was worthy. And it lasted for about a week,
Mm-hmm.
and then came home from the trip and was like, I still feel unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we're chasing the wrong carrot, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Um
Do you think that at that time you kept yourself busy so that you wouldn't have to deal with your emotions and deal with your trauma? Were you at that place? Because I know that's very common, and it was definitely true for me that I kept myself really busy and then I wouldn't have to deal with myself.
I would say definitely there's some part of that, but what was really at that forefront was just trying to prove my worthiness and trying
Mm.
to prove that I was good enough. That I was, and I think it's a lot of like proving to my parents that I was,
Mm.
that they
Yeah.
that all the investment and their hardship of leaving the Philippines coming to Canada, like I could say, see, I'm worthy. And now, of course, I look at it and I'm like, of course I'm worthy. Like I took my mom for her 65th birthday to Rome, all
Oh.
expense paid. She got to see the Pope on her birthday, which
Oh,
was,
wow.
she drank Prosecco for the first time. She had a cappuccino for the first time. We,
Oh.
we got to go on a shopping spree because British Airways lost our luggage. Like it was the most incredible trip. And yet there's still this part of me that's like, oh, when will I win my mom's love? It's like, but I already won her love. And she tells me every day, but it's for me. There's this book. It's called Receiving the Love You Want. It's such a good book. And what I got from that book is that we will only experience love and the love of others to the level at which we love ourselves.
Mhm.
And so many people that I work with, they want so much validation and appreciation from other people.
External.
Right. And then the partner says to me, but I do, but she doesn't want to hear it. But
Mhm.
I'm giving it to her. And she honestly cannot hear it. She's like, you do? He's like, yes. But because she feels so unworthy of herself, she can't even hear it. And I could see that for myself with my husband. There were
Mhm.
moments when my husband just showers me with like compliments and affection. And there's moments where I used to be like, oh, a little too much. Or what's the ulterior motive? Are you trying to get in my
Yeah.
business? It's like there's like an
Yeah.
agenda.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it was actually my mom who kind of caught me, and she's like, Jeanelle, why do you do that? Like, here's this man who's just giving you all his love, and you're just kind of like diminishing it. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't even realize I was doing that. And I realized like the impact of me doing that is eventually he's just going to stop doing it because I just
Mhm.
keep like not validating his affection. And so I have consciously been really focused on being gracious
Mm.
and accepting the love and the appreciation and the validate and all of that. But it feels a little uncomfortable,
It does. I know exactly
right?
what you're talking about because my husband is that way too. And sometimes it's kind of like, oh, stop. It's
Yeah.
too much. Like it's hard to, it's what we want to hear, right? It's what we want to hear. Like we want to hear that, but then it gets to be too much. And I don't quite know what that is, but it's true. It feels like too much because maybe we didn't get it. I don't know. But
Yeah. Well, I think it's being responsible. Like being, what if that was true?
ooh,
I think part of it too is like waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, and for me, it's like, what if he finds out?
I know exactly. I was just saying that. What if he finds out the
What if
truth?
he finds out the truth that I'm not perfect? Oh my God, is he gonna
He's
leave?
gonna leave me.
He's gonna leave.
I know exactly. I know
And
that
here
one.
we are 18 years later. We both work from home. We spend pretty much 24/7 together and we're still extremely happy. So, like, what am I waiting for?
Right, right. Stop it. I know. What is that? It's so true. And Larry has actually called me out on that. He's
Yeah.
actually in the beginning of our relationship. He's like, "You're waiting for the other shoe to drop." And I'm like, "Oh, I guess I am."
Yeah.
And he says, "You're also testing me."
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah.
And it's true.
Yeah.
Everybody else has left me. You're going to leave me too.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to make it really easy for you.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
Hmm. Hmm. So I think that's why, going back to what you said earlier, like being aware of like, okay, what's actually going on? And also catching yourself when you do it, because a lot of it is very automatic, right?
Correct.
Like a
Yeah.
knee-jerk reaction. So you don't even
Mhm.
think about what you're saying. So there's this expression in the Filipino language called bola. And bola is kind of like BS or
Mm.
like, yeah, right. It's kind of like that kind of tone. And so every time he would say, baby, you are the most beautiful woman I have ever seen in my entire life. And you are so perfect. Like he looks at me straight in the eye and says with
Oh,
such love. And then I just go, I roll my eyes and I go, bola. And he goes, but I'm not bola. And that's like the back and forth that we have. And then I was like, why am I saying bola? Like it was a
yeah.
game, but there's a part of me that's like, yeah, I don't believe you.
Yeah. Because if you really, really believed him, you wouldn't even joke about that.
Right. I would
Right?
just be like, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. You'd receive it.
I
Receiving
would,
is hard.
receiving is hard.
And I came from a background of I didn't have support. I didn't have help. I had to figure it out on my own. And so it is, I'm much better than now, but in the beginning, when people are trying to help you and, support you, it's no, 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 I got it. It's okay. It's okay. And I hurt a lot of feelings. And then there was a day I realized I really do need support. Why am I pushing it away? I didn't have it when I was a kid when I wanted it. Now I've got it and I'm pushing it away.
Because you're making it mean something about you that maybe that
Ooh.
you're wow, that people who are weak are the ones that need help.
Correct. Yes. I stood on my own 2 feet all these years. Why do I need help now?
Yeah, I don't need
Oh,
anybody. It's
no,
like
no, no.
trying to prove that, but at the same time, you're like, but I do need somebody.
I know, but I don't want anybody to know.
I don't want anybody to know that I need you. Because what would that mean?
Yes,
And what if they said,
exactly.
and then what if they left?
Right. And I'm vulnerable.
And now you're vulnerable. And now you've relied on someone, you've given your love and your trust to
Trust.
them. And now they're gone. And now you're like, oh, I did that to myself. It's my fault.
Right. 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 Ah, so good. So good. I love it. I love it. So tell me, what would you like to leave our listeners with?
really focus on your love for yourself first.
Yes.
When you love yourself, I notice for myself, the more I love myself, the less I get triggered.
Yeah.
The less I compare myself to others,
Yes.
the less insecure I feel.
Mm-hmm. True.
Because I know that my work will ruffle feathers, does ruffle feathers.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where growth happens, is inside of that ruffling feathers. But if I
Mhm.
am not secure with who I am, my commitment to my clients, then I'm going to get upset about it. So I think self-love is really, really important,
And I
especially
love that you're saying that. And I know people tend to think that's kind of wooey, but it is so true.
100%. Well, we're saying we want love in our life, but when we think about love in our life, we only think about the outside,
Correct.
right? Not what's in here.
And we can't give away what we don't have.
Exactly. And if we want intimacy, right? And
Mhm.
that's, I think, a lot of us what we want, but we're so afraid to have that.
Mhm.
But really, intimacy is about into me, you see. So if
Ooh,
you don't love what's in here, you don't want anybody to look inside. You're going to
exactly.
shut that down,
Oh yeah, you're going to protect that.
right?
Oh, God, I'm just thinking about the days that I did that. Holy cow, you said that and it was like, boom, I'm right back at that moment. And that wall went up. Oh no.
Yeah.
And you know what's behind that wall? You all by yourself.
Honestly, I think that is the biggest fear that we all have, is being alone.
Mhm.
So a lot of times though, we will abandon, leave, cut out people out of our lives because we assume that they're going to leave us anyway. So we leave
Mhm.
them first,
Mhm.
which again, though, even though our fear is being alone, we end up actually choosing to be alone, even though
Mhm.
we say we don't want to be alone.
You know, and it's interesting, the term being alone. I can just remember for years being alone and feeling alone. Like I felt
Mhm.
alone all the time. And I was seeking love and seeking love. And felt alone and felt alone and was, trying to get people in my life that would hang out. Well, I kept picking the people that would leave me, right? And then fast forward to today, and I'm never lonely.
Mhm.
I'm never lonely. And I have, my husband works out of the house. I'm here. So I am here alone a lot. I'm never lonely. I actually enjoy my company.
Me too.
I really do. And, I love going out. I love being with people for sure.
Yeah,
But before when I was alone, I would have to distract myself because
exactly.
right. I had constantly doing something because the thought of being by myself was too much. And now I got to have my alone time.
Me too. I remember my husband going off to band practice for 2, 3 hours, and I'd be like, when are you going to come home? Because I didn't actually know what it was like. Like growing up, I'm Filipino, so I'm always around people. I have siblings, I always had
Mhm.
my siblings, always had my parents. And then as I, created a life with Mike and he had to travel or, he's doing, gigs now, like with his band, and I'm alone a lot. I was so uncomfortable because I
Mhm.
didn't actually know who I was. And so a few years ago, I went away for a week by myself, had never done this in my entire life. I've never lived alone. And so I went away for a week, and that the whole goal was just to learn more about myself when there was nobody around. Like,
Yeah.
who is Jeanelle when there's not other people to create the energy around me?
Mhm.
And I was afraid. I was actually afraid to do this trip by myself because I didn't know what I was going to find. I was like, why if I'm like a super boring person? But I discovered myself to be a playful, childlike, joyful, spiritual, free, like
Funny.
funny bird, just kind of just, yeah, like a fairy. I almost felt like a fairy in this. And I loved that week by myself. And since then, like you said, like I need to have my alone time. And
Mhm.
now when I tell my husband, honey, I would love to do this every quarter, that I go away for a week by myself to to decompress, to get creative, to connect with God and spirit. And my husband's like, but how about me?
Yeah, I know. I know because
Right.
I've actually thought about doing it, like taking a long weekend and just go by myself and just get to know myself even better. I've worked on it over the last 7 years of getting to know myself because I didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
I had no idea who I was.
Yeah. And
I
I
was
think a
Lisa.
lot
I
of
was a
us are
mom.
like that.
Yeah, yeah. And I've discovered a lot of things about myself that I, really appreciate. Like I like history. Who'd have thunk? I didn't like history in high school,
Yeah.
but I was in a
Yeah.
different place.
But when you
But
get, when you get married and you have kids, you start taking on identities of
mhm,
that called mom, called wife, and then
yeah,
you lose yourself.
very
And
true.
unless you do, you allocate that time every once in a while to really go in and go, okay, let me get back to me as a woman, not the. And so for me, it's like, okay, taking off that coach hat is very hard for me because it's not just a job for me. I feel it's like a life mission,
Right.
but the impact is it's hard for me to separate myself from my work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
I
so
get that.
that's the work for me is like, okay, who is Jeanelle when she's not being coached?
Right. Right. I
And that's
get
kind of
that.
scary too. It's like being naked,
Yeah.
basically.
And it's your gift. And when it's your gift, like for me, this is one of my gifts. Like I'm really enjoying it. It's not work.
Right.
It's not easy, but it's not work.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Mm.
So sorry, back to your question. Be the change you wish to see. Like you said, if you
Mm.
want love, give more love. If you want to be forgiven, forgive. If you want to be accepted, accept the people you love. It starts with you.
Yeah, I agree. Well, this has been great. Thank you so much. And lots of great tidbits for everybody. I love it.
Yeah, thank
How
you.
could people reach out to you if they wanted to get coaching or
Yeah, or just talk. Yeah,
just
I
talk?
offer a 1 hour consult to anyone who'd love to just chat about what's going on in their lives. They can reach me at janellegreene.com or at saveourmarriage.ca.
I like that. And we'll have all that, of course, listed below. And so, listeners, if you like what you heard today, subscribe. What is it? Subscribe, follow,
Share.
click, whatever. Share. That's important. Share
Yeah,
with other listeners because this is really great stuff. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And we solved more world problems, didn't we?
I hope so. I hope.
Mm-hmm. Me too.